Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review. This movie is a thriller from Germany, German language English subs, released in the year 2021, directed by Thomas Sieben, and this film is called Prey. So Prey is about 5 friends. They're all very close and they're celebrating the imminent wedding of the main character. And so they're going to spend a weekend away in the mountains. They're going to get in touch with nature, and hopefully this is going to be a bonding experience they've never experienced before. But unfortunately, it's going to be an experience that they've never experienced before for all the wrong reasons when they realise they're being targeted by an unknown shooter. So it's a fight for survival, and whether or not these friends can get off this mountain alive is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Prey. This is a foreign thriller / horror film that I didn't even know existed until I was browsing in the catalogue on Netflix and realised that this was actually a European horror film. And so that is a rarity these days, and this is everything that I love about cinema, is that going into a film that no one's really talked about and not knowing what to experience. So it's Russian roulette. What are you going to get? This is going to be a surprise. This is all the excitement. So a lot of excitement was building up in me, and I was hoping that this is going to be another example of fine European cinema. So with fingers crossed, I went into the film, I watched the movie, and after it I can say that this is one of the most disappointing experiences I've had this year, because this should have been a brilliant film. If it stayed true to what it was in the first half, I thought this movie would have been an absolute knockout and a brilliant exercise in suspense and creating the invisible net of tension. So unfortunately in the second half it falls down to what the modern viewer's expectations are, and that's something I'll go into a little bit later. But what I liked about this film was the invisible presence that the movie produces, and that invisible presence captivates you to a point where you're on the edge of your seat. This movie reminded me of a Spanish film called King of the Hill that I thought was brilliant. It was a minimalistic survival film, and it was about putting yourself into the main character's shoes and what you would do in a similar circumstance. And so not every film has to be deep and meaningful. Not every movie is trying to mould characters in a way where you can really sympathise for. Sometimes these movies are created to put yourself into that shoe. This is an experience of survival. This is experience of sheer terror and not knowing who you're up against. And if you don't know who you're up against, that creates uncertainty. And uncertainty is everything that creates suspense. Uncertainty is everything that creates horror. And this movie has it going in the first half. I thought it's as though it really maintain that sustained tension, is that this mountain was beautiful at the start. Nature can be a very beautiful thing, but nature can be a horrifying thing. And the movie uses that horrifying element of nature in a very good way, because it's a vast landscape and this shooter could be anywhere. And so you're not knowing what's around the next corner. So the sense of anticipation is what keeps you on the edge of your seat. And as I said, not knowing what you're up against, you can't brace for impact and you can't make a plan. And if you can't make a plan, then basically all you can do is run. But this movie shows that you can only run a certain length before you actually have to do something else. But not knowing what you can do, as I said, it makes you very vulnerable. And so that's what Prey has going for it in the first half of this film, and that's why the first half of this film was absolutely brilliant. There are some really brutal moments, there are some very creepy moments, and so it understands all the elements that makes high-end horror / thrillers, and that high-end thriller / horror element is what made the likes of Roman Polanski and Alfred Hitchcock. And so to actually sum this movie up as very reminiscent of those brilliant legendary directors, that is a massive call, and it's a call I don't make lightly. And so the first half of this film I absolutely loved. You don't get too much insight into these characters because it knows what it wants to be, and what it wants to be is it's a survival thriller, minimalistic elements, and just allowing you to really enjoy it. The movie doesn't go for very long, and so I thought as though it was a recipe for an absolute success. But unfortunately, this is where Prey runs into its problems in the second half, and unfortunately it bows down to the pressure of the modern day viewer's expectations. And what those expectations are is wanting to know what is going on. It needs everything spelled out for you. I've seen time and time again, a lot of movies have been criticised for leaving things very ambiguous and not answering everything, not holding a hand. And to me, that's not a bad thing. To me, that is what makes stuff scary. You don't have to know every single time. If someone starts shooting at you, are you going to play detective and want to know what's going on, or are you just going to run for your life? And then you start to ask your questions, why did you target me? And if those questions aren't answered, that makes it even scarier. It's because you can't brace yourself, you can't fight back. And this movie had that going, but then when it starts to explain itself, it starts to become absolutely ridiculous. And there's a lot of complexity added into the issue, and the complexity goes against the minimalistic approach that the first half had. And so the first half was breakneck speed, it was really on the edge of your seat, but then it starts to explain itself, and this is where you can start to relax. And that pressure valve is released because it just goes into this story of these friends that I thought was absolutely not necessary, because it goes absolutely nowhere. It didn't evolve the film in an impressive way. All it does is disjoint the fluency that the movie had. And then you've got the identity of this shooter that I thought was ridiculous, and again served no purpose. The way that these characters actually find out what's going on was the most convenient element that I've seen in a film in a very long time, and it had my eyes rolling, and I thought, why did they have to do this? They didn't realise the good things that this movie had. And if you don't bow down to the modern day viewers' expectations, it can make a different experience. And I thought, if you didn't even know who this shooter was, you didn't even know why this shooter was targeting them, all we knew is that they had to get out of there if they wanted to keep their lives. And so that to me is scary enough. That to me is enough. You know what you have to do. You have to run away. But if you know what you're up against, then you can fight back. And that's what the viewer wants. They want that element where they know what's going on, so it gives it that sense of comfort. It gives them that sense, okay, I'm in this bubble where I can now understand what's going on, and so that suspense and that unknown presence is limited in a way where I thought as though it really hurt this film. And by the end of it, I was happy it finished, but I just thought as though if it cut itself off in the first half and it was a short film, it would have been absolutely brilliant. But unfortunately, again, it bows down to modern day viewers' expectations where they want to be told everything. It reminded me of a mainstream Hollywood film where you don't have to use your brain, you want to know what's going on, you don't want to use your imagination, because again, that makes vulnerability. And unfortunately, this movie doesn't realise what it had going for it, and it came across as a bitter disappointment. So it should have been a brilliant movie, but unfortunately it was nothing like the Spanish film King of the Hill. King of the Hill was brilliant because it knew exactly what it wanted to do and it made you think. But this movie doesn't want to do that. It wants to tie up all loose ends. It adds elements that were completely unnecessary, therefore comes across as a really mediocre experience. So overall for Prey, should have been a 5-star film, but it comes across as a 2-star film. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies and I'll see you later. Bye.